Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell, and I'm going to be going over the news on the Israeli-Hamas war and maybe a little bit of the market updates. The last I looked, the futures market was up for the Dow and the S&P 500. Recording this before the opening. So this is November 9th. And when the market does open in New York, I'll let you know on how the markets are actually trading. I'd like to go over some news from Fox, and then we'll drop into Al Jazeera, and then probably drop into France 24. So before we do that, make sure that you subscribe to all my channels. I have 3 channels on YouTube. I am censored on YouTube for obvious reasons, right? And it has nothing to do with the Israeli conflict. It has a lot to do with the previous crisis that we went through. People don't get notifications. They sometimes get notifications. Actually, if I'm doing a premiere on the big channel, they might get a notification 2, 3, 4, 5 hours after it premiered. So, you know, YouTube plays games on the big channel. All right. And I am censored on YouTube. All right. So everyone needs to just freaking wake up. So make sure that you subscribe to all my channels. That way you're going to get a notification so you can get the information. I have three channels on YouTube. Link is in the description. Make sure you subscribe to all of them. You'll get desubscribed. YouTube does that to individuals like myself, and they'll unclick your bell. So make sure your bell is clicked, and make sure you're subscribed to all 3 channels to get around the notification censorship. On top of it, I also have Bitchute, Rumble, and Brighteon. Make sure you subscribe there so you can see all the content. All right. In addition, please help support my news coverage by donating on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and that will help support my news coverage. I put everything that I do for free out there. I do not put it on behind a paywall. I have always done that. Everyone sees everything for free. The people that help support by donating and by buying from my store allows for this content to be free for everybody. If I have something to say, I think everybody should hear it for free. All right. But people that actually donate are the ones that are allowing that to happen. All right. So please support my news coverage by donating on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. On the homepage at the very bottom, you can donate through Stripe or PayPal. You can also donate through Buy Me a Coffee. The link is in the description of this video. Just look at the description box behind all my videos, underneath all the videos, and you'll see all the links. And make sure you subscribe to all the channels. Please donate to help make sure that everyone gets to see my videos. And please share the links. All right. Okay. I give a unique perspective, and I don't pull any punches, and there's a philosophical consistency in my logic. And you'll notice I'll say something. I'm not sure if it's going to be in this video or another video about the emotional fallacy of 9/11 and this crisis. All right. And believe me, when I say it, nobody that is going to everyone that hears it, they're not going to like it when I say it. All right. There's an emotional fallacy that's happening, and a lot of these patriots out there, a lot of these truthers out there, they're not going to like what I have to say. All right, let's drop in to Fox News, because you love PNN, right? That's right, the best news that you can get on YouTube. Yeah. All right. Fox News. U.S. Reaper drone shot near Yemen coast.
A Fox News alert, the U.S. military unleashing a second round of airstrikes on a Syrian weapons storage facility that the Pentagon says Iran used to attack American troops. This after U.S. military bases in Iraq and in Syria were attacked at least 42 times in about half as many days. And yesterday, Iranian-backed Houthi rebels shot.
Since October 17th, the United States has been attacked by drones or, rockets or whatever combination 42 times. 42 times. Okay? Now, there's everything that happens in the world has like 10 layers of understanding and depth, right? At the very surface, it's like, okay, October 17th, and we've been attacked 42 times in the region. What did Biden do? Just about nothing. Shot some empty warehouses, didn't kill any terrorists, didn't knock out Iran, didn't knock out Hezbollah, there's not much that they're doing, all right? I believe, though, and I'll try to find it, I believe last night the United States hit Syria, I think it was Syria, with airstrikes. I'll see if I can find that video. Now, let's go into the deeper level of this. Okay, there is a Kabbalistic meaning for 42. Okay, and the angle rounded to whole degrees for which a rainbow appears, the critical angle, is 42 degrees, the whole number. Now, 9/11, there was a rainbow for the anniversary for 2023. Not only that, 9/11 this year happened to coincide with the lunar month, the 6th month in the Jewish calendar, on the 25th day, which is a really important day. So 9/11 and the 6th month of the 25th day coincided. Now, the usherance in the Messianic era is supposed to be the 25th day of the 6th month on the 6th day, not the 2nd day, which it was this year. It was on Monday. All right. And that there was a 70-day countdown. This didn't happen. There's supposed to be a sign in the sky, and there's a 7-day countdown, and the beginnings of that sign happened on the 25th of the 6th month on the 6th day. That did not happen. What did happen was on the 6th month, on the 25th day of the 2nd day of the week, the rainbow was on that day. And it so happened to coincide with 9/11. And I've been saying from day one, and you hear other people copying me now, but I remember saying way back in the first week of February and the second week of February that 9/11 and the crisis that we just went through was this, what I call the canonical event, the bookends. Because 9/11, the towers fell in 102 minutes from the first strike to from the first hit to when they all fell down. All right. And you mirror 102, you get 201. And 201 is event 201. So 9/11 and the crisis that we just went through are canonical events. But within this canonical event, there are offshoots that are happening, such as this event. 42 is a magical number. Look into this. But the point I'm making is that 42 is signaling something. All right. And again, once again, Dr. Paul Cottrell gives you something that you have not heard before. Because you know why? There are a lot of people that just copy other people's content and they're not original. It is very obvious I'm an original guy. So stop watching the clowns, stop watching the people that are just copying other people, and start watching people that are actually original thinkers. There are people out there that are original thinkers, but there's an awful lot of people that you're watching that are not original thinkers. All right, here we go.
Iranian-backed Houthi rebels shot down a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone off the coast of Yemen.
Alex Hogan is on the ground in northern Israel with the very latest. Alex, good morning.
Good morning, Hurley and Todd. We're in northern Israel, just behind me on the hillside. You can see that border wall. That is Lebanon. There's a lot of international concern and attempts to try to ease tensions here. Meanwhile, late last night, U.S. military firing and striking a weapons arms location in eastern Syria using 2 F-15s. The defense secretary says that move was in self-defense. Now, take a look at this. This is the map showing where U.S. forces have been attacked. 42
F-15s. You know, they've been retrofitted with new equipment and all this, right? But F-15s, my understanding, was the same aircraft that Maverick used in the original Top Gun back in the 80s. I mean, I'm not even sure. I mean, maybe it's the Red Baron. I don't know if it's running the show over there.
forces have been attacked 42 times across the Middle East in the last 4 weeks. And last night, U.S. defense officials confirmed to Fox that off the coast of Yemen, Houthis shot down a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone. These drones are for intelligence and surveillance and cost about $32 million. Meanwhile, in Gaza, the IDF continues to press forward, unleashing new airstrikes in Gaza overnight.
You want to hear a backstory? Because, you know, because I'm original, right? Here's a backstory. Okay. So I knew someone that worked for Northrop Grumman back when I was doing my dissertation. All right. I'm not going to say who it is, but this person was working on their PhD also at Walden University. I believe they were working on there was some sort of computer code for management or something. I can't remember what exactly their PhD was specific to with their dissertation. My dissertation was on modeling financial markets and algorithmic trading to dynamically hedge during an illiquid market. And my data set was pre-Lehman, during Lehman, post-Lehman, to see how an automatically stabilizing algorithm would dynamically hedge through an illiquid market like the Lehman crisis. So that's and that was in the oil market, in the European US currency market, the Euro US futures. So, you know, and that algorithm that I used is for the dynamic hedging is called horizontal control. And horizontal control is an algorithm that actually is used in predicting using Monte Carlo simulation, but predicting where the next move will be, either in a 2-dimensional space or a 3-dimensional space, and adjusting based on telemetry to hit a target. In my case, the target was a particular range for a price. But at Northrop Grumman, they used the same algorithm for drones to stabilize. So these autonomous drones, they would go. Some drones are controlled remotely, and but they also have the capability to be autonomous. So you can put it in a GPS coordinate system. All right, I know this because this person actually made the program for Northrop Grumman for their drone program. That's how I know this. All right. So this horizontal control algorithm will help to stabilize the actual rocket or or drone. Now, Elon Musk is doing something very similar with the AI. There's an AI algorithm that's using a horizontal control type algorithm to bring that rocket down and stabilize, because it's analyzing the telemetry, measuring a lot of different things, and trying to blow the different propellant out on the sides of the rocket to be able to land it, to be able to stabilize it. So that concept can actually be used in the market to stabilize a dynamically hedged position. All right. And you got all those people out there saying, but DrPaulCottrell is all, he doesn't know anything. But yeah, right. Smarter than the average bear. All right. So this student that I knew that was working on their dissertation also at Walden, but in a different program. They were in the management side, and they were working on some sort of computer program that was tied to management. But this person was part of the Northrop Grumman drone program. And if you remember a long time ago, and you got to type in your Google, there was a drone that was knocked down in the 2000s. So this might have been like 2010. I don't remember exactly the year. Somewhere between like 2010 to 2015, somewhere in there. There was a drone that was knocked down in Iran, and it was a Northrop Grumman drone. She made that. All right. She was part of the team that did that. All right. So, all right. So, and the idea here is that there are actually stations that help to add telemetry to have that drone work. Back then, I don't know about now. It might be all satellite now. I don't know. But then if you knock out certain stations, then the drone loses course, and then either automatically lands or can get easily shot down. So it's not just shooting down. I'm saying a lot here, so pay attention. It's not just shooting down the drone. It could actually disrupt communications that help the drone to target that, and then it goes in kind of a safe mode, and then it's easier to knock down. Now that's back then, 2010 to 2015. I'm not exactly know the exact date of when that Northrop Grumman drone system was knocked down by Iran, but she was part of it. And this person just so happened to give me some more insight on like dynamically hedging the market by using algorithms that the State Department, that the military department uses for their rocket system, their propulsion, for targeting and for drone targeting. Now, back in the olden days, a drone would be targeted. You would say, okay, here's the GPS position. I want you to go through a mountain range and get to that target. The problem was that in the early days, it didn't know. This is back in the early days, all right? Not now, but back in the early days, it didn't know that the mountains were there. So it would go, okay, I'm flying and I need to get to that position, and it will actually crash into the damn mountain. But systems have become much more advanced now. But back in the early prototype days, they had these problems. All right, so these algorithms that help to train these systems are these horizontal controls, and the horizontal control stochastic programming is what it's called. This horizontal control and stochastic programming is basically saying, okay, where's your target? Okay, it's in a three-dimensional space. In my case, it was a price for the market, but in this case, it's a three-dimensional space for the drone, and it's getting telemetry, and then it's adjusting in real time. This is why it was dynamically hedged in my for my dissertation. And it will automatically adjust getting new telemetry, sonar, infrared, wind speed, tilting of the earth, all this stuff, right? And it will get to that position, right? And the key here is that it's projecting out. The stochastic programming is it's projecting out. Oh, so many time periods away, I am projecting as a drone or as a rocket or as as a Elon Musk landing vehicle, back to Earth. I am projecting so many time periods out where I might be. I need to adjust to make sure that I am closer to my target. So it's constantly running Monte Carlos. You need very high processors to do this. It's constantly running a Monte Carlo at each time period, every second, right? It's running a new Monte Carlo maybe 3 or 4 seconds out and where it might be and what's the probability cone. And then it's adjusting, right? And eventually there's going to be enough data that, and this is what Elon Musk did, there's enough data to train the AI to actually get it to land, right? Now, what YouTube person that's giving you an inside information on the last crisis that we went through, be able to apply what I learned doing dynamic hedging in the market, all right, and using an algorithm that actually the military uses for its missile system and for its drone system. And oh, by the way, it's part of the algorithm that actually lands Elon Musk's rockets. There's a lot of people out there that always want to try to demonize me and think that I don't know anything. You know what? They don't know what they're talking about. But the reality of the situation is that there's like this. You can take, the point here is that you can take things that other disciplines are using and see some sort of other application, right? And that was part of the genius of the dissertation was you can take a missile system technology, horizontal control and stochastic programming, and actually use it in the financial markets. All right, same thing. You can take something that a protein that may actually in a certain context be very deadly, like an HIV protein, if you have HIV. But if you don't have HIV, it may, and purified, and that protein's purified, it can be actually a therapy. But you listen to a lot of stupid YouTubers that don't really have much to say other than they're copying people. So that's a little backstory on what inspired me to use the actual horizontal control and stochastic programming for dynamically hedging a Lehman crisis, a liquid market, right? And how that horizontal control and stochastic programming actually is how the missile systems that we use work. Now, obviously, they're training the systems, over time, but that's basic. That's the core. That's the core of it. That's the basic part of it. This is stochastically program out through Monte Carlo simulations where this is going in real time every second and adjusting based on telemetry and its probability cone, their flight path. All right. Okay, let's apologize for digressing. How does Richie from Boston say that? I digress. But he's a flat earther. Why would you need flat? Why would you need, if the world was flat, why would you need actually curvature and rotation of the earth for these ICBMs? Oh, because the earth is not flat, Richie.
airstrikes in Gaza overnight. 351 Israeli soldiers have been killed in the last month since October 7th, 35 of them killed just since that ground incursion began. And on the ground in the last day, Israeli forces made this discovery: a weapons production and storage center in an apartment building right next to a child's bedroom. As international conversations build around this potential temporary pause to discuss the release of hostages, Israeli officials here on the ground say a ceasefire simply isn't.
IDF. Hamas weapons site found near child's room. What a surprise. Hamas doesn't even care about children.
Ground say a ceasefire simply is not going to happen.
There is no ceasefire. We are battling Hamas. There is no ceasefire. Gaza civilians are fleeing from the north to the south because they understand Hamas is using them as human shield.
The focus remains on not only dismantling Hamas, but of course rescuing those hostages. Both of those goals revolve around a very intricate system of tunnels built underground, as many as 300 miles of tunnels. That is the effort. That is where they believe many of those hostages are being held. So of course the main focus, Carly and Todd, is getting rid of those tunnels and finding those hostages as soon as possible.
All right, Alex Hogan live for us on the ground in northern Israel. Alex, thank you so much. So 42 attacks on U.S. troops since October 17th. Yesterday, a defense official said that these attacks may not have been successful in terms of severely injuring our service members, but they confirmed that these attacks are meant to kill U.S. service members. So there is that, which is obviously very concerning news. Then there's this MQ-9 Reaper drone. Have some more information on that. It costs $32 million. The wingspan, 66 feet, just to give the stats on this thing, how massive it is, how expensive it is. It weighs almost 5,000 pounds, and it's primarily used to collect intelligence, but can also be armed with up to eight laser.
So these things can be radio guided, controlled, but it also some of them can also be autonomous. All right, and they're plugged in. They're the missile system that's on these things can shoot. Some of them can shoot missile systems. And but a lot of it is for just surveillance. But it uses this horizontal control system that I'm telling you about. $32 million. Bye-bye.
Laser-guided Hellfire missiles. That's according to the Air Force. So one of the other big elements about this is that, obviously Iran is giving these proxy groups money and funding enough to give them the technology to shoot this highly advanced, technologically savvy drone down.
You can't just shoot this down with whatever you're making in your house. I mean, you obviously need real weapons to shoot something like this down. Look, we all agree we need to respond. I mean, I think everybody in America agrees we can't let attacks like this go unresponded to. But it's the scattershot response of the Biden administration that begs the question, is this going to do anything to deter the next attack? Look at your screen. I think it's clear it is not, and the candidates spoke about it.
I'm going to read this to you. 2 attacks here, 5 attacks here, 4 attacks here, 2 attacks here. 2 attacks, 5 attacks, 4 attacks, 2 attacks, 4 attacks. Where's the 1 attack, 13 attacks, 5 attacks, 4 attacks, 1 attack. You know what? A lot of it's in Iraq. Quite a bit of them are in Syria on the Eastern Front. But here's the thing. We have a government that doesn't kick ass.
Last night at the debate, listen.
We shouldn't be doing the tit for tat like what Joe Biden has done. We need to go and take out their infrastructure that they are using to make those strikes with, so they can never do it again.
I would say you harm a hair.
She's talking tough. Nikki Haley's talking tough. But mark my words, she's in all white because of suffrage laws. Don't you remember all that all white stuff that was going on in Congress with Nancy Pelosi in the AOC crowd. And she is a Republican, or is she a rhino? I mean, Pete, these people aren't legit. These people are not sincere people. They're all bullshit. They're all bullshit. This guy's skull and bones.
Harm a hair on the head of an American service member, and you are going to have hell to pay. We are not.
If you're going to harm a hair on an American service member, you're going to have hell to pay. I bet if he was in office, he wouldn't do a damn thing. We already have people that have concussion injuries from from these attacks, these 42 attacks. Some of them have concussion injuries. They've already been harmed.
We are not just going to sit there and let our service members be sitting ducks.
You actually have to cut off the head of the snake, and the head of the snake is Iran and not simply the proxies, in order for us to have a powerful response.
So that should be the response.
Scott's got it right. You kill Hamas, you kill Hezbollah, and you kill Iran.
That should be the response. Both things that DeSantis and Haley said, as well as Scott. DeSantis said, look, you hit one of ours, we're going to destroy you. That needs to be the response, not like, oh, we're going to attack this random outpost over here.
Yeah,
we need to attack with force. But the second part of that, to Haley's point, you got to cut the head off at the snake, to Scott's point. To Haley's point, you need.
All these people that run for office, if they're not in office already, I mean, as the president or VP, almost always, especially on the Republican side, you know, they talk tough, but once they're in office, they don't do a damn thing. Because it's all talk. It's all to get your vote, but they won't do a damn thing.
Snake, to Scott's point, to Haley's point, you need to take out the infrastructure. So they can't do any of this. What is Joe Biden doing? Okay, we're going to hit you here, maybe. And it's so scattershot and it's so random and the objectives aren't clear and it's not sending a message of fear to anybody over there because they keep doing it.
Yeah, clearly the Republican position is that they would be escalating in terms of responding to these attacks on U.S. bases. The one thing that I was missing from what the candidate said last night is an actual plan. It was broad strokes saying that they would make sure that Iran had hell to pay. But what exactly does that mean? And does it come down to a situation where if they were president, maybe they would be doing the exact same thing as the Biden administration and attacking these bases? Because then what is the next level? Attacking Iranians and, you know, and killing them? And then we could actually be getting into a war here. So there is a fine line here, playing politics on the debate stage, of course. But
no, there is no fine line. You get the job done. Because if you keep on waiting, it's going to get worse. More people are going to die, and it's going to be unconventional, chemical, biological, radiological, and whatever else we've dreamt up. It's time to stop playing footsie.
Of course, but you know, there's real implications in all of this, and it's a scary situation that we find ourselves in.
Carly, you can't hit the infrastructure without hitting the troops necessarily. We need to do it more.
Yeah.
Not doing it.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I mean,
We got to
you
be a
know,
country
look here.
that stops having generals that have participation medals and driving drones around the sky with horizontal control, stochastic programming, and have a real war and earn that medal. General, win the war, General. I think I'd be a good president. All right, U.S. forces destroy Iran-linked weapons depot in Syria.
House in Syria.
Well, this came just hours after Iranian-backed militias or militants launched their 42nd attack on U.S. bases over there since October 17th.
And our people are getting hurt. This includes an American Reaper drone that was shot down yesterday, cost millions. It happened over Yemen. We looked like we were in their airspace, and that was taken down by a drone too. Let's bring in retired Army General Anthony Tata.
General,
General.
Did you win a war?
Your thoughts about our second retaliation after a total of 42 attacks since October 7th?
Yeah, Brian. So these are the lowest threshold flexible deterrent options that DoD has. You can go after equipment and ammo in Syria. You can go after people, Shia militia groups in Syria. Next up would be Shia militia groups in Iraq. Next up would be directly confronting Iran, who is behind.
And these low-level attacks will earn us some medals. General, what war did you win last 50 years? Oh, none. Okay, General.
Running Iran, who is behind all of this. And so it's the lowest threshold possible. And
Yeah, because America doesn't want a war.
To Iran, matching the strikes that are going in on the equipment. It's weak, right? So in my view, it's weak, having been the policy guy.
Right. And General, I was reading that apparently we were watching the facility that we were going to hit for hours, and we saw people coming and going, and then it seems like everybody left. So, apparently there was a worry that they would kill somebody, connected to the Revolutionary Guard or a militia group.
All right, what's
And
showing
then
here in
become
the
more.
pictures,
You gotta-
and they're not talking about it, but what's showing here in the pictures is actually the IDF searching a series of rooms. They had rocket launchers. They have these missile parts for assembly. This is in Gaza.
And that would inflame them more. But you got to figure, they knew we were.
Footage, by the way, that wasn't.
They had to know we were coming.
Right. And so by watching it for so long and allowing people to leave, it's a very clear intention that we didn't want to kill anybody. We just wanted to damage the equipment. So it's a demonstration.
Yeah, we just want to demonstrate that we're tough guys. We're not going to really do anything serious. Like set the flames of the turban of the Ayatollah, which we should have done for 50 fucking years. General.
Power, which is
Symbolic.
it's symbolic and it's meaningless if it's not matched with an escalation of these flexible deterrent options.
General, you heard Donald Trump at the rally down in Florida. He said Ukraine never would have happened if he were in office. Would that have happened if he were in office? What about the Afghanistan withdrawal? Would either one of those happen?
Aidley, it didn't happen when Trump was president. And he, right before that, it had happened in Crimea with Obama, as was referenced earlier.
It's because
And
the
nothing was
Republican
done
Party
with MREs, right?
and the Democratic Party are a bunch of
immediately
pussies.
after the president leaves
And
office,
Trump
it
is
happens
really
again. So
an independent running as a
Yeah.
Republican.
the Trump policies were an effective deterrent against Russian aggression in that region. And likewise with Afghanistan, we had a really good plan to kind of coalesce on Bagram, which is the most protected base in the area, not on Kabul, which is the least protected airfield in the area.
And Trump never would have allowed, his own ego would not have let him allow Kabul to fall in 9 minutes or in so many days and be just take an airport, hold an airport and allow us to blow up. The whole scenario would have been feasible. But I got to ask you about what happened yesterday. These attacks are not going to stop from what you saw. They called themselves a resistance, combined resistance. Iran is meeting with the heads of these militias, meeting with Hezbollah and Hamas. What do you think they're thinking? What is their strategy? Because they're daring us to be tougher. Should we?
Well, so the first thing we should do is increase domestic oil energy production, and that region of the world becomes far less important to us.
I didn't want to do that. Shut down the pipelines day one.
Exactly. That's my point, is that the Trump era oil production policy.
Day one.
Exactly. That's my point, is that the Trump era oil production policies decrease the relevance, plus the Abraham Accords increase the cooperation.
We're talking about the attacks right now.
No, but it's all relevant, Brian, because what Iran is trying to do is disrupt the unity that was happening, the momentum, and then they know that we're dependent upon Venezuela and Iraq and Saudi and even Iran for oil, and so they just want to continue to be a needle in our side, a thorn in our side there, and provoke us into doing something irrational. From their perspective. And that's what their end state is here, is just to continue to foment. And this was you know, the whole Iran nuclear deal had no cessation of support for the Shia militia groups throughout the region. And so that
The United States take an isolationist policy by reducing our exposure to the Middle East in terms of oil and being a partner in trying to bring lasting peace in that region. That isolationist policy is going to hurt the Messianic age, and it's going to hurt Israel in general, because if something does happen, the United States citizen is going to say, why should I care? I don't, I have cheap oil. You can't trust the American citizen in the aggregate to be able to support Israel. That, I'm telling you, that's the way, that is the way the American public is. Now you're going to have pockets that absolutely hates Israel, and you have pockets that wants to support Israel. But there is a large constituency in America that only cares about themselves. And we're all getting judged on this. The United States needs to wake up and realize that we are a declining empire. It's going to get weaker over time. It'll have, ebbs and flows in terms of economic activity, but the overall trend is going to be going downward. And we are going to be the yoke of this new age in the Middle East. And as the yoke starts to deplete, we're going to deplete. That is our life cycle. That is our destiny. Now, there are going to be individuals in the United States that are isolationists, and they're going to be judged on this very fact. So I disagree with the general that being, reduced. Yes, of course, cheaper oil would be better for the economy, right? And businesses would be able to flourish. It'll be easier on the utility bills for many Americans. So I'm on that page, all right? But if you disengage in the Middle East too much, then what's going to happen is the Iranians are going to say, well, the US won't back Israel, so we'll go in and attack them. On the other side of the spectrum is that if we're too far engaged, have too many self-interests in the region, Iran can use that as an Achilles heel of the United States by trying to get us more involved in the region. We're going to do half war, and that's going to rile up more Arab nations to go against Israel and try to destroy this peace agreement, the Abraham Accords and the offshoots of it. So we have to keep in mind that if we disengage totally, it's going to be bad. If we have too many self-interests in the region, be too dependent on the oil in that region, then it'll be easier for Iran to antagonize us. But the thing is that we could knock out Iran, and this whole problem would go away in hours, measured in hours. But we do only half war, or quarter war, or 132nd war, or 164th war, or 128th war, or maybe 512th war, because our generals can't win wars. Our generals don't get the job done, and this is the problem that we have in that region.
Throughout the region, and so that, to me, we've got to have a diplomatic piece here, which has really been anemic in engaging Iran. And for some reason, this administration does not want
talking to Iran.
But we should be talking to Iran and talking at Iran, not with Iran, and telling them that you got to stop this throughout the region, or we're going to reimpose sanctions. We've got to get tougher with Iran, and for some reason, this administration doesn't want to do it.
Well, yesterday,
Forget about the sanctions.
General,
Forget about it. They need to be destroyed. Half war is not going to get this job done. Why are we spending all this money on weapons if we don't
General,
use
thank
them?
you very much for joining us tonight, Steve.
Thank
It
you
was
for
not
joining
much of
us.
a payback. I'm Steve
Yeah,
Pearson.
damn right.
Brian killed me.
And I mean, what
There
you're
is no-
click here.
Okay, we're gonna drop into the BBC. All right, it's titled "Israel says it now controls the north of Gaza Strip."
Of northern Gaza after intense fighting. 50,000 Palestinians fled Gaza City yesterday through evacuation routes after Israel opened a safe passage on the road to the south for a few hours. Meanwhile, a senior UN official has accused both sides of committing war crimes. Here's our Middle East correspondent, Yolande Nell, with the latest.
Israel's vast military might on display once again. It says Hamas has lost control in northern Gaza and its troops are battling inside Gaza City. This is a critical point in the war. And for the first time, the BBC was given access behind Israeli lines in Gaza, escorted by soldiers. While the BBC had editorial control of the report, these pictures were cleared for use by the Israeli military.
You know what I don't understand? And I'm diverging. You know, it's PNN, and I can do whatever the fuck I want, right? On CNBC, they're interviewing an investor. His name is Malone, right? Old guy, all right, Liberty, and you know what was popping in my head is that I don't understand why these kinds of individuals that have serious money, all right, they get to this age, late 70s, maybe even early 80s, and they're still in this manipulation game. They never seem to be happy to just kind of exit out. They've already made their money. They've already made, you know, their mark and their dent in the universe, as Steve Jobs would say. And they're really not, I don't think that they're really enjoying their life. And there's a sadness that takes place with you know, seeing this. I was listening to a podcast by a very, very known rabbi. And he was mentioning about this, the different types of people, and we have different attributes in our soul. And you have some people that, you know, want knowledge or wisdom, right? And there's others that just want money. And these individuals that just want money. He was talking about some of these goals. He had some Jewish individuals coming to his house during the holiday, and they were from Goldman Sachs. All right, this must have been like in the 90s, all right, late 90s, and or maybe early 2000s. But you know, and you know, he was explaining to his audience the personalities of these individuals, where they never feel like they have enough money, and then they postpone forming a family, or you know, postpone certain things because they're looking for this feeling of security through a monetary mechanism, and not realizing that, you know, life is ups and downs, and there's actually blessing that takes place when, you know, you actually, you know, move through life without this idea, I have to have this security blanket. You know, a lot of people use the security blanket of money, but there's just there's some people, they just, point I'm making is there's some people that just don't check out, and they just continually, you know, are in the system trying, you know, to make money in the system, and they're already done very well, right? And some people would say, well, you know, they're trying to be staying active and all this. I think it's more indicative of a disease. There's a wisdom to realizing your mortality and trying to enjoy your life, right? Versus constantly trying to play a manipulation game, or, you know, being part of, you know, being a cog in the wheel because you're afraid of what's going to happen when you retire, or, you know, you need to enjoy your life. right? It doesn't mean that you can't be successful, but there's a point in time where you need to like realize that it's about trying to enjoy the limited amount of time that you have, because you don't know how long you have, right? You develop cancer, you can get hit by, a car, or, you can crash in an airplane, get in, a deadly disease, whatever, right? You just don't know, and you just don't know when that's going to come up. So you need to enjoy your life and not be a slave to the system. Even if you're really wealthy, if you can't enjoy what you're doing, and I'm not saying superficial enjoyment, I mean like real joy in the soul, then you're not living your life. You're a slave to your life. So, take that kind of perspective. Try to learn from that. Not, these people that are trying to hold on to the material world. And I think that's what's happening. They're old and they're trying to hold on to what they were so successful in, thinking that if they hold on tight enough that they won't die or something like this. That's a sign of a disease. That's a sign of a problem. But that's my tangential. Back to death and destruction in the Middle East.
Amid the huge destruction, officers showed what they said was a Hamas weapons factory, set up, they said, below a family apartment, a child's bedroom. They insisted that Hamas, not Israel, was responsible for civilian loss of life.
We know intelligence. We know what we hit. We know the targets that are approved by our command. It's not that I wake up and my objective is to ruin the city. I aim for enemy, and enemy only.
Israel said
DialPad has completely transformed how we support customers. Built-in AI helps my agents transfer calls, track customer sentiment, and even coaches in real time. So we can provide the best customer service at every step. DialPad, work beautifully.
I picked the software engineering program because they pay very well. It's a fast-paced industry. The bootcamp allowed me to keep my job, honestly, and
Israel says its actions in Gaza, where it's trying to eradicate Hamas, are a military necessity, but this war is about self-defense. But Abiya's view is different. She says that because of Israel's bombardment, nowhere is safe. There's no food or drinking water for the children, and that Israel has bombed the bakeries. Israel says that 50,000 Palestinians moved south in Gaza yesterday when it promised safe passage. But during the day, deadly Israeli airstrikes were reported across the length of the strip. The Hamas-run authorities now say that more than 10,500 people have been killed. The UN Secretary-General says the civilian death toll in Gaza shows something is clearly wrong with Israeli military operations, but also that Hamas is using people as human shields. Meanwhile, the UN's Human Rights Commissioner visiting the region is accusing both Israel and Hamas of war crimes. After G7 top diplomats voiced their concerns at a meeting in Japan.
I think they're missing the point. I think that the overall strategy is to totally restructure, at the minimum, the northern Gazan Strip, but most likely the whole Gazan Strip. And there is going to be I'll call light occupation in that area to stabilize the government. Now, their leadership, the Palestinian leadership, is living like billionaires because of the fleecing of their people. And the people don't do anything about it. And the only way to stop this is to cut off the support of terrorism, and that is killing Hamas, killing Hezbollah, and killing Iran, all right? And stopping that flow, but then also decapitating the government of the Palestinians and having them be able to rebuild and have a representative government. And through the oil that's on offshore, they should be able to rebuild. So Marine One and Marine Two, those oil funds should help to rebuild Gaza. All right. But if they don't get their act together, the next conflict is going to be a purge of the Palestinians out of Israel proper. And that includes the West Bank. See, this is like the Palestinians' last chance. Again, God gives people chances. Do you want to repent? Do you want to make it a peaceful world or not? If not, then there's going to be destruction. There's going to be harm that's caused. And then a blessing that comes out of that, depending on what side you are on this whole equation. It's too easy to say, I don't want war. It's too easy.
At a meeting in Japan, attention is also beginning to turn to the post-war future. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said there should be a united Palestinian-led government for Gaza and the West Bank as a step towards Palestinian statehood.
It's also clear that Israel cannot occupy Gaza. Now, the reality is that there may be a need for some transition period at the end of the conflict, but it is imperative that Palestinian people be central to governance in Gaza and in the West Bank as well.
We're now trading at 950, and then Dow's down 41 points, and S&P 500 down just under 2 points.
But for now, this conflict rages on. Hamas may be hugely outgunned, but its guerrilla tactics on the streets of Gaza could keep the war with Israel going for months to come. Roland Nell, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Well, more on this. The French government is hosting a conference in Paris to discuss ways of getting humanitarian aid to people in Gaza. Delegations from several Arab nations are attending, but Israel will not be represented, and its main backer, the United States, is only sending a low-level team. Well, let's go live now to Paris and our correspondent.
Before we go live to Paris, it's really recorded. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support my work and get the products that will help improve your health. Get the best toothpaste that you can buy on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's way better than anything that Alex Jones sells. It's way better than Colgate. It's way better than Crest. This has no fluoride in it. It's structural nanosilver. It will neutralize pathogens, reduce the plaque, whiten the teeth, freshen the breath, reduce cardiovascular disease. This neutralizes pathogens. I wonder why it was so important through the last crisis. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and buy a few of these tubes of toothpaste. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com. Support my coverage and not so much Alex Jones coverage. Do you really think that Alex Jones uses the products that he promotes? Doesn't look like it. Does it look like that I use the products that I promote? Yeah. Silver gel. This helps neutralize pathogens. You put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your nose, lightly coat your nostrils, around your eyes, lightly coat, around your ears and in your eardrum, lightly coated. You'll stay active for 5 hours. That'll help you reduce the chances of getting a pathogen during the cold season. It also is a skincare product. It'll help heal a cut. It'll help heal a burn. It'll help heal acne. It'll help to heal, abrasions. And also, if you put this on every night, on your skin every night, you wake up and then you exfoliate, you're actually going to have healthier skin. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I have structural nano silver lozenges. I have it in sweet menthol and green apple, 20 count. I have blueberry, 100 count, and honey and lemon, 100 count drops. So you can get lozenges and you can get drops on my store. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and neutralize pathogens, especially during the cold season. I have structural nano silver soaps. I guess what does it do? It actually neutralizes pathogens. So it's a high quality soap. I have different varieties on my store. Go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the soap. Right there are some great products. In addition, you can get liquids. I have Max 35 and Max 14. And what do you do with that? You take a teaspoon of it a day, and it'll neutralize pathogens. You basically swish it in your mouth and gargle it with it, and then you swallow it. All right. By doing that, you're neutralizing the pathogens in your mouth, down deeper into your throat, and down your esophagus, and that's improving the mucosal layer, that barrier that you need to prevent pathogens. So it's neutralizing pathogens, but it's also keeping a healthy barrier. And in that mucosal barrier is your IgAs, your immunoglobulin A's, that help to fight off certain types of infection. So this is a great way, especially when you're going through cold season, to improve your health. Because if you're chronically sick, your immune system is chronically trying to attack that illness and not focusing its attention on healing your body. And when you reduce those pathogens on a regular basis, your immune system can shift and focus on slowing down the aging process and letting your body heal. It's a very simple concept. It's about preventative medicine. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and don't be a crazy liberal.
Paris and our correspondent Hugh Schofield. Hugh, let's just start with the conference itself. What is France hoping to achieve?
Well, it's hoping that this will lead to some kind of breakthrough in getting aid into Gaza. They're assembling some very eminent people. The head of UNRWA, the relief agency, is going to be talking. The head of the International Red Cross will be here briefing delegates on the situation. And the hope is that they, with the delegations, will come up with creative ideas about getting aid in, about establishing field hospitals, getting fuel down into the Gaza Strip. So I have to say, there's a huge degree of skepticism about this conference, which was hastily organized in the last few days. And it's really just a kind of adjunct to an existing peace forum, which President Macron had been planning, which will discuss a lot of other issues, such as global warming and AI and so on. And this was sort of tacked on to the beginning because of the pressing problem of Gaza. But I don't think there's a huge expectation that it's going to lead to anything particularly significant.
But it does send perhaps a message to Israel, and Israel isn't sending a delegation to the conference. And the French government has talked about not wanting to offend the Israeli government.
Yeah, we need to be quite clear that the Israelis are not sending a delegation, but primarily because they weren't invited, and that's not intended to snub the Israelis. The idea was that this would be a conference of countries that are interested in getting aid into Gaza, donor countries, and Israel obviously does not count among them. So there's no intention of snubs in either direction. But what is the case, I think, is that this does have a political dimension. The French government, President Macron in particular, has been accused by some here in France, many here in France, of adopting a pro-Israeli reaction and of the initial attacks, coming down very, very, very too firmly on behalf or on the side of Israel to all of this. And it's pressure, certainly from the foreign ministry here, to redress the balance somewhat and show that France also shares the concerns of the Arab world, of the South, more largely, and their concerns about humanitarian difficulties in Gaza. So that does address that and does send out a message, and does send out a message about how the world increasingly is hoping for some kind of humanitarian pause in the fighting.
Yes, thank you very much. That's our correspondent in Paris, Hugh Schofield. Well, as Hugh mentioned there has been some skepticism about the conference, including from aid organizations and human rights groups. And we can now talk to Sasha Deshmukh, who's the Chief Executive of Amnesty International UK here in London. Sasha, thank you very much for joining us. So Amnesty International has issued a statement ahead of this conference saying the focus should be on calling for a ceasefire.
Yes, we welcome. Amnesty International failed to tell the public at large, I mean, the purposeful hiding of the tunnels underneath the hospitals, the purposeful embedding of Hamas in the population, and also on how the Palestinians didn't prevent that from happening for the last 15 years. But it's war crimes on Israel trying to defend itself. Amnesty International would, they want to promote Hamas. And from my estimation of this, they're promoting Hamas. They're allowing these rockets to be fired. And of course, when you embed a military or terrorists into a region inside the population, and your enemy is coming in to try to get you, there's going to be collateral damage. They did that on purpose. Hamas wants the casualties to show to the world how bad Israel is. And Amnesty International, which is full of crazy left-wing nuts, right? Left-wing liberals, ultra-liberals, they're going to placate to the terrorists. Yes, we've welcomed. Yes, we've welcomed the international community focusing on the humanitarian situation in Gaza at this conference. We have said that a ceasefire, we believe, is an important step that can mean that there can be a chance for the delivery of sustained and effective aid in Gaza. There can be a chance for the burying of the dead. There can be a chance for the treatment of the many, many people wounded. And also, critically, during a ceasefire, there can be an intensification of negotiations in trying to ensure the return. There's also the chance, highly probable, like 99.8%, that Hamas is going to dig in and make it worse for the IDF when hostilities start to ensue after the ceasefire. See, what it is that they want a ceasefire to try to put pressure on Netanyahu and not get the job done. And we have seen this 3 times in recent years, where if you don't get the job done, it gets worse each time, each subsequent time. This is why the ultra-liberal doesn't understand. Your policies, ultra-liberal, are actually going to make things worse, not better, in the long run. So he has a book, here's Dr. Paul Cottrell speaking, off the cuff, just another spark of genius. Tort law on the back, over his left shoulder. All right. So I don't know if he's a lawyer or not. I don't know. But the thing is that he has this tort law. And tort law is about how you did something wrong and someone can come and try to get some sort of monetary compensation, right? In a very strange way, the ultra liberal is causing things to get worse in the Middle East. Unfortunately, there's no tort law to go after people like him and Amnesty International because they're promoting a policy that literally at a metaphysical and a physical level will lead to further destruction and carnage and children's deaths instead of getting the job done. This is why war is a bitch. War is hell. But if you're going to do it, you got to go all out. You can't play half war because they'll only make it worse. And this situation is a lot different because there's a divine curse, a divine blessing all wrapped up in this event. It is about the land and it's about the Temple Mount. It has nothing to do with children dying and all the emotional fallacy that goes along with it. You know, the liberals out there, and even the truthers, because there are many truthers that are not liberal, but the liberals out there are saying, stop the war because of the emotional fallacy, the emotional charge of this, of the children dying. Stop the war. Too many children are dying. That's an emotional fallacy. All right. It's happening, but it's an emotional fallacy. That's a philosophical domain, all right, to understand certain things. There's an emotional fallacy here. They want to stop the war because the kids are being killed, all right, in Gaza. You have the truthers that are isolationists that want to say, stop the war or don't further escalate the war because the children. All right. That's an emotion that's based on an emotional fallacy. All right. We need to kind of like get to the point where more children are going to actually die in the long run if we keep on kicking the can down the road. Because all of these events that have been happening, each time that there's an escalation of violence in this region, there's more and more children that die in that epoch of escalation. So they're hurting children. It's better to get the job done. Now, the truthers during 9/11, they were also saying, oh, don't go into the Middle East because of all this inside job stuff, which it did happen, right? I'm not saying it didn't. I mean, there was an inside job in 9/11 for sure, right? And the Building 7, there's some weird things going on with Building 7, and even the Twin Towers, all right? But they're saying, don't get into the emotional fallacy of 9/11 to go into the Middle East. The truther, and some of them are watching right now, the truther during 9/11 said, don't go in the Middle East because I want to be an isolationist because there was an inside job and there's an emotional fallacy that's going on. This Pearl Harbor emotional fallacy of all the people that died during 9/11. There was close to 3,000 on that day. Don't use that emotion. Don't buy into the emotional fallacy to go into the war. Well, truther, you got to use the same foundation, the philosophical foundation, and apply it to what's going on in Gaza. Truther, don't buy into the emotional fallacy that you should stop and prevent Israel from getting the job done because children are dying. Because it's going to get worse down the road. You know, once again, you have a very unique perspective when you come to my channel and you listen to me. It's too easy to say, children die and stop war. You got to dive into the details. If you stop the war, is it going to make it worse down the road? Yes. Is it going to increase the probability of terrorists getting unconventional weapons? Yes. Is the divine going to be upset because you're not getting the job done and going back to the temple, the temple boundaries and taking down that damn Dome of the Rock? Yes. So, truther, just as you were focused on 9/11 was an inside job, don't go into the Middle East, because don't buy into the emotional fallacy. You got to use that same principle and say, don't buy into the emotional fallacy of the children dying. Now, it's not easy to get your head wrapped around in that. It's not easy because we're so used to headline one level of thinking. You have to think, multiple levels, 3-level thinking kind of mentality. Saying don't go into 9/11 because of an emotional fallacy, you would have to use the same logic and say, don't stop Israel because of the emotional fallacy with killing each other during, collateral damage. Now, the truthers out there are going to say, well, I don't know about that. It's the same thing during the last crisis when I was explaining all the details of what could happen with the V and with the pathogen, right? And all the problems that can go. And everyone was like, it's only this or it's only that. No. Got it? If you really want to be a thinker, you need to step out of the box and look at this from a really critical lens. All right. And unfortunately, a lot of truthers don't do that. They're only on a one type lens. I was doing a video last night on the big channel, and there's a guy named Sean came into the chat, and he goes, Mike Adams is going to disagree with how you are, approaching the problem in the Middle East. I don't get permission to say certain things from anybody. My own thinking, my own analysis, my own free will is enough for me to be able to voice my opinion on certain issues. Because of my intelligence and because of my experience, I think my unique perspective is very accurate on many, 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 many things. Not just one category of knowledge, but on many topics. And people out there, especially in the truther community, they're afraid to depart from the standard talking points of the truther movement. Because the truthers want to be isolationists. But by being an isolationist in this situation with what's going on in Israel is exactly what God is testing you on. Are you going to be an isolationist, or are you going to be on the side of the children of the covenant? If you're going to be on the side of the children of the covenant, independent of if you're Jewish or not, you're going to get blessed. This is a battle of that region and getting that blessing when the Temple Mount is rebuilt, when that whole machinery is booted back up. And the Jews and the Christians are tied together in this whole thing. But the ultra-liberal, this is where God is like, remember I said the ultra-liberal is going to eat its own tail. But in a strange way, if you really follow what I'm saying about the emotional fallacy with 9/11 and the emotional fallacy with this whole stop the war because the children are dying, right? You're seeing that the truther community is also being eaten up within the ultra-liberals. Because you're not being philosophically consistent. Unless your philosophical consistency is to be an isolationist and self-centered. Well, that's egoism.
Trying to ensure the return of hostages, which of course must also be a critical focus.
But do you understand Israel's position? Because you've been calling for a ceasefire, but the Israeli government says any pause in fighting would benefit Hamas, and it has a responsibility to protect its citizens.
Well, all states have a responsibility to self-defense of their citizens. They actually have that as a duty, but that duty can never be undertaken by committing war crimes. And as you've reported, many experts, including the United Nations Commissioner, have spoken now about war crimes that have been conducted both by Hamas, but also by the Israeli authorities. I believe
there are war crimes that happen in every war, right? At different degrees. The Israelis are investigating a potential war crime with the treatment of certain Hamas militants after they were captured or they were killed. I'm not sure which. All right, and I haven't heard, and that needs to be investigated. And if those soldiers did, those soldiers should be prosecuted in a, in some sort of war criminal trial, right? And Hamas is doing the same thing. But to state that civilian casualties, when they've been told to get out of the way, in most cases, is not a war crime. Collateral damage is not a war crime, especially when you're dropping munitions that have such power to get into the tunnel system. There is going to be collateral damage. So I'm tired of hearing this Amnesty International use a loose definition of what a war crime is. Or when he is talking about war crimes, what are the specifics of the war crime? Are we talking about the soldiers that mistreated, the IDF mistreated some of the militants, the Hamas militants, that go against conventional warfare doctrine? Okay, if so, that's a war crime. All right. Now I'll applaud you for doing it, doing an international job, right? But if you're saying that dropping a bunker buster after you told the citizens to move south and the collateral damage that it causes, that's a war crime? No, that's not a war crime. When you are targeting launch sites that are 70 meters away from a hospital and there's collateral damage, that's not a war crime. You know what the war crime is? The NGOs, now get a piece of paper and write this down. The war crime is that the NGOs that help support the building of the Indonesian hospital, building it on top of an existing tunnel system, is a war crime.
I believe that a ceasefire is critical in this situation. I believe that it would provide an opportunity not only for the delivery of critical humanitarian aid in a sustained way, but also provide a critical opportunity for a focus on the hostages as well. Of course, that hostage taking is a terrible crime as well.
Many people watching might be wondering what happens next, because the United States, most countries are either calling for a ceasefire or a pause in fighting. What more can be done?
Well, I think within a ceasefire, as well as the delivery of humanitarian aid, as well as a focus on the return of the hostages, critically also there needs to be a focus on human rights and the journey to a longer term solution, which I believe needs to be based on human rights.
Oh, I believe I know that it's written in the Torah that God's covenant is stating certain borders for Israel and the and the need for the temple. It's not. This has been written down for thousands of years, and not allowing that to happen is going to only cause more strife in that region. Sadly, during the Crusades, the Christians didn't get the job done. They lost. And the Dome of the Rock is there. If the Christians didn't lose the Crusades, we wouldn't have had this problem. And now what we're seeing is that the Jews and the Christians are going to be demonized because of a bunch of ultra liberals trying to force peace into the region, force some sort of homeostasis where the system, this divine system, doesn't want to be in homeostasis yet because certain things aren't happening. Like I said, the policy wonks and the international community are trying to impose a certain peace, and it's going to get worse over time. We believe.
Within a ceasefire, we also need to see investigators from the United Nations Commission for Human Rights, from organizations such as Amnesty International, as well as the International Criminal Court, be allowed access, be allowed to actually give the world the truth about what has been happening, the crimes committed by both sides, but critically also, what does it then mean for there to be a human rights solution, a human rights-based journey out of this conflict? I believe it's only with a focus on human rights that we're.
I believe that God doesn't really care about what this guy has to say. I believe that God doesn't really care about what international amnesty has to say. Why? Because the Temple Mount's going to be rebuilt and the borders of Israel are going to be maintained based on biblical boundaries. Oh, I'm saying that for a reason. Ultra-liberal, you don't understand the wisdom of the cantillation. Dumbass.
Right, that we're going to see the end of what has been a decades-long crisis, and also focusing particularly on Gaza. We need to remember that the current situation within which we're calling for a ceasefire is also been an intensification of a 16-year-long blockade of Gaza. That actually
16-year digging in to the ground and building hospitals with NGO money to hide them. That's not a war crime. Yeah. God, I'm so sick of these people.
That action in and of itself is being an illegal action.
Oh, an illegal action? No. What about the illegal action of Hamas leaders high up, Hezbollah leaders high up, Palestinian leaders high up in the organization, fleecing their constituency and living high on the hog in Qatar? I'll tell you, man. Mark my words, the tail is going to be eaten. The snake is, this whole ultra liberal is going to eat its tail. And
not all, but there are going to be some truthers that are isolationists. They're going to be wrapped up in that whole world, and that tail is going to be eaten. The Christians that don't want to side on Israel, they're also going to be eaten in that whole tail. 16 years. No, what it was is that you had 16 years of fleecing. Hamas doesn't care about the citizens, and nor does the Palestinian government, the high ups, because they are able to get federal funds or get U.S. money and money from the UN and money from Europe and the NGOs, and they can fleece it. And the more conflict, the more they can fleece. If it was stable over there, why would people donate? Why would there be aid? You wouldn't need it. They need a crisis there, so their government keeps on fleecing. Why didn't you talk about that? I wonder. There's a pernicious activity of these terrorists and of these governments that are fleecing the citizens of Gaza and the West Bank. But the citizens of Gaza and the West Bank should have got their shit together and had better self-governance. If there was peace in that region, a two-state solution would reach homeostasis. But they don't want peace. They don't want to have self-governance. You know why? Because Ishmael and Esau are a bunch of fucking animals. And when you have a wild animal, you have to get rid of it.
Sasha Deshmukh, Chief Executive of Amnesty International UK. Thanks for joining us. Well, for the latest on the conflict, let's go live now to our correspondent, Mark Lowen, who's in southern Israel. And Mark, as we've been reporting, there were about 50,000 people who left northern Gaza yesterday, and the Israeli military is saying it's going to open a key high.
We're going to go to commercial for PNN. There are a lot of pathogens out there that have to be neutralized, like crazy liberals. And it's a serious disease, ultra-liberalism. So to neutralize pathogens, get this version of silver gel. It's in a dispenser. It's easy to put in your bag, travel around with it. Again, you apply it exactly the same way and use it the exact same way as the silver gel here. This happens to be, I believe, 24 ppm. This is a 30, I think it says 35 ppm. When you get older, it's harder to read the fine print. And with this, you apply it the same way. You put it on your hands, put it around your mouth, around your nose, lightly coat your nostrils, around your ears, lightly coat the eardrum, and lightly coat your eyes when they're closed. This will neutralize pathogens for 5 hours. Not only that, it'll help to heal cuts, abrasions, minor burns. And you can use this as a skincare product. Put it on your skin every night, and then you're going to see that your skin is getting tighter, especially on the face, in clearing. Now you can improve that skin even further by taking my collagen and my vitamin C and drinking 64 ounces of water. When you take the vitamin C, the collagen, and the 64 ounces of water throughout the day, right? You drink the water throughout the day that's filtered, right? No fluoride. Fluoride makes you stupid. All right. What will happen is that the dermal layer will get better. The lower layer of your skin will get better. And there's a cross-linking that takes place in the cellular matrix, extracellular matrix. And by doing that, your skin will improve and look younger. Do that for, about 2 weeks to a month, and you're gonna start noticing differences. Also, taking the collagen will improve your bones and your cartilage and your tendons and your ligaments over time. Take my advice. Preventative medicine will go a long way to improve your health. And it won't make you a crazy liberal. Now, I know that a lot of people are watching my show and sometimes they get high blood pressure, right? and they may get upset because of all the crazy liberal stuff that's going on in this world. You need to properly control your blood pressure, but you also need to worry about your lipid profile. To be able to improve your cardiovascular health, take omega-3. When you take omega-3, what it's going to do is it's going to improve that lipid profile. When you improve the lipid profile within your bloodstream, you're reducing cardiovascular disease. Take omega-3 every day, and it's going to improve your health. That way you can live long enough to maybe see the ushering in of the Messianic era. Take lignans. This is a powder. This helps with your immune system, and it helps with hormonal health for males and females. It'll help with the prostate for males, and it'll help for uterine and ovarian health for females. If you're postmenopausal, it'll also help to mitigate hot flashes. The point here is that if you take this on a regular basis, it's in a powder. You can put it in a smoothie. You can put it in water, or I put it in hummus every afternoon with my probiotic. You take this regularly, and what will happen is you're going to improve your immune system. And when you improve your immune system, guess what? You have natural killer cells and CD8 positive cells that are cytotoxic that will be able to hunt down and kill cancerous cells. Take my advice. If not, don't take my advice. I partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and Gail has developed an awesome deodorant bar. It's multi-purpose. This deodorant bar is in citrus, and the other scent is in peppermint lavender. This is made from essential oils from the Himalayas. It has a certain type of harmonic to the essential oil, so it's very high quality. What you'll notice when you use this every day, not only as a deodorant, but it'll help to detoxify your body. And when you're doing that, you're getting healthier. This bar will actually get you healthier. Do you think Speed Stick from Procter & Gamble or whoever makes it gets you healthier when you use their deodorant? No. This is for males and females. Get this bar. It's going to improve your health. Extremely high quality ingredients in this. And the bar lasts quite a bit, quite a while. We're in the cold season, and a lot of people are low on zinc. So take this supplement that I have, magnesium and zinc. You take this every day. If you're not feeling well, take a double dose. And it's part of a protocol to fight a cold, all right? I've said it many times on what to do if you catch a cold. So those are some of the products that I have on my store. Please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and follow the protocol. Take the supplements and improve your health. Back to the BBC and your daily programming.
To open a key highway for people to leave once again today. What do we know about the movement of people and how they're managing to get out of northern Gaza?
Most people have no clue that in 2023, the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical products. It's Amazon. Well, there is this main highway, as you say, Catherine, the Saladin Road, which goes from the northern tip of Gaza down to the south, and that is the road that the Israelis are trying to encourage civilians to take in order to flee the most intense military airstrikes in the north of Gaza. And the Israeli Defense Forces say that 50,000 took that road yesterday. That is considerably higher numbers than taken if confirmed the previous days. And the Israeli Defense Force say that it could indeed be reopened again today. There's been no official confirmation, but the likelihood is that it would be reopened as the Israelis try to get the civilians to flee south. But remember, there are still tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands, who are still in the north. as the Israeli Defense Forces push further into Gaza City. Now, the Israelis say that Hamas has lost control of northern Gaza. There was, they say, an intense 10-hour battle yesterday to take control of a Hamas stronghold. And the offensive into Gaza City it pushes deeper. Meanwhile, there is some possible good news on the hostages, with reports that the Qatari government is mediating for the release potentially of 12 hostages, including some Americans. The Americans believe that 10 US nationals are still being held under Hamas captivity, and we understand that those talks are ongoing.
And Mark, we've been talking so far in the program about a possible ceasefire or pause in the fighting. The United States, other allies, other allies of Israel are calling for the same. Are we seeing any sign of that from the government there?
No.
Well, certainly not ceasefire.
Dow is down 106 points right now. S&P 500 down 10 points. And oil is trading at, WTI is trading at 76.64. It's up 1.7%. So markets are down right now at this moment.
Well, certainly not a ceasefire that the Benjamin Netanyahu has ruled out unless there is a full release of the hostages, and that's very unlikely to happen. What we're talking about really is humanitarian pauses, pauses in the fighting. And yesterday, the Israeli military announced for the first time that there would be a 4-hour pause in 3 large neighborhoods of Gaza City in order for food and water to be reached by the civilians. But residents there saying that there is such a shortage of food and water that they were unable to get very much during those pauses. But that was the first time that there had been apparently an official announcement from inside Gaza City. Meanwhile, what appears to be happening are kind of more localized stoppages in some isolated places on the ground. I don't think we're necessarily going to get an official announcement from the Israeli government about a humanitarian pause. I think it's going to be more localized stoppages for people to be able to access aid. So far, yesterday, we are told that 86 trucks cross from Rafah in Egypt into Gaza carrying aid, but that is still just a drop in the ocean in terms of the needs on the ground.
Thank you very much. That's our correspondent.
The needs on the ground, what people need to realize is that it's about baseline. What were the needs on the ground before the invasion, before the bombings, the strategic bombings from the Israelis? And I'm willing to bet, because of the fleecing of the Palestinian government over its people, that the needs of the citizens of Gaza were really high, that the needs were very extreme. The baseline. Then when you add in the war, then it's even more. So let's stop framing that their needs are because of Israel. Let's start framing it, what were the needs at baseline, and then compare it to the needs of the war. I'm sure it's increased, but there were needs way before Israel started bombing, way before October 7th. What were the needs of the Gazans on October 1st? BBC. And I bet what you'll find is there were a lot of families that couldn't feed their family, that didn't have adequate water or medical care. And why was that? Because you had a government that was fleecing their citizens. You would have a Palestinian government, high level, living like kings. Where? In Qatar. In Turkey. It's amazing. It's amazing. And you know, and these people don't even fucking say this. Please go to my store, the-studio-breakfast.com, and follow my protocol. and get the health supplements that I offer. It's going to improve your health. And if you follow my advice, you won't turn into an Alex Jones. Does Alex Jones look healthy? Does Dave Hodges look healthy? No. Wonder why. Take Max 35. This Health Max 35, it has 35 ppm of structural nanosilver liquid. What you do is you take a teaspoon of this a day. I take a teaspoon of it a day, and you swish it in your mouth and you gargle with it and you swallow it. What will happen is it'll neutralize the pathogens, like I said before. And this couples with all the other structural nanosilver products that I have. Like today, I'm not, I have a little bit of an irritation in my throat today. So I took a tablespoon of it. And if it still is irritating me the rest of the day, then I'll take another tablespoon of it. In addition, when you're not feeling well, make a tea, all right? Boiled filtered water, add some fresh cut, fresh grated ginger, fresh chopped ginger, freshly chopped garlic, slices of lemon, boil it slowly for like 20 minutes, right? Add in some turmeric, add in some cinnamon. I use like a black tea, and you brew black tea and you put all this in there, in that tea, and you take this 3 or 4 times during the day. And if you take it early on and you're not feeling well, it will clear the problem. If you don't, then it may get worse and it may get into your lungs and it may start having nasal drip and all the other problems. So the key is the moment you're not feeling well, you attack it, with the lozenges and the liquids and this homemade tea, right? When you follow that, you notice that everything I say, it's not like a silver bullet, but there is a coupling of things that have synergistic effects that attack it from multiple angles, and it improves your chances of getting better. Vitamin C. Very important to take every day, and take a little bit more when you're not feeling well. But it's also a very important component in the skincare that I told you about. It is an antioxidant, but it's not as strong as C60. C60 is the strongest antioxidant that you're going to be able to buy. So go to my store and get the C60. I sell it in 2 ounce, 4 ounce, and an 8 ounce. And you can get it in coconut oil or in avocado oil. Take it every day. Take a teaspoon of it a day. If you're not feeling well, then take a tablespoon. All right. But usually just take a teaspoon of it a day. And it's a very strong antioxidant, and it'll bring down those reactive oxygen species, boost up the mitochondrial health, and you'll have more energy to be able to fight. And it'll help with your immune system by giving the immune system more energy. Turmeric, bring down that pro-inflammatory cytokine. This will help to heal your body, and you take it regularly. Like, remember what I said, I'm not feeling well and I probably will make a tea, all right? I put turmeric. I have also the spice turmeric, not, this is the supplement, but I take the spice also, and, put it in the tea. That'll help to bring down that inflammation that's happening in the throat. But you take turmeric every day and you're bringing down that inflammation in your body. And when you do that on a regular basis, what's going to happen is you're going to actually age slower. And, oh, by the way, your body's healing because it's not chronically inflamed. Ashwagandha, controlled blood glucose levels. Americans eat too much sugar, and that's part of the reason why they're too fat, and they have too much inflammation. Take ashwagandha, it'll control your blood glucose levels. Reduce all those cookies. Probiotic, pre and probiotic. I take this with my hummus every day. It's a powder. I actually mix it with this lignans, right? You can also put it in a smoothie. You can put it in water. It doesn't really matter. I prefer to put it in my hummus. But extremely, extremely important to get the proper gut biome. Because when you do that, you're going to be absorbing energy properly, you're going to have a better metabolism, and you're going to be more consistent with your stools. Those are the health products that I offer. I have many, many more, like B complex, good night formula that helps to get you into REM cycles for your sleep. You're going to feel more rested if you take the good night formula. I have clarity factor. Here's clarity factor. Clarity factor, which will reduce brain fog. It'll allow you to concentrate at work and in school. I take 2 of these a day. I take it in the morning and mid-afternoon. Some people just take it in the morning, but the bottom line is, or sometimes people just take it, later in the day when they have to do, when they're getting tired at work. But this is way better than anything that Alex Jones sells with his brain force. So, instead of supporting Alex Jones and buying his toothpaste and his brain force, why don't you buy Dr. Paul Cottrell's toothpaste on his store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the clarity factor. This will help those neurons to fire. And when you're firing on those neurons, you're going to be more active. And then if you couple it with the good night formula at night, right? When you're taking this during the day, you're concentrating, you're getting those neurons firing, and you keep those dendritic connections. Then you take the good night formula right before you go to bed, and you're going to get the 3 REM cycles that you need for memory consolidation, getting well rested. And when you are properly well rested, your cells and your cerebral spinal fluid, the CSF, will start to detox, right? And it'll get rid of some of the garbage throughout the day that your body has been producing. When you don't get adequate sleep, your memory goes down, you start losing dendritic connections, and your body isn't detoxifying properly. So take clarity factor to get your dendrites connected and those neurons firing on a regular basis, and take the good night formula to get the REM cycle sleep. And that right there is going to improve your health big time. All right. Then when you take the C60, like I said, and you take a teaspoon of it a day, it's a very strong antioxidant. It's going to improve the mitochondrial health and build up more ATP. Well, what do you need to actually get the neuron to fire? You need ATP to get the neurotransmitters released. So you need the ATP, and in some of the neurons, you need calcium, right? Well, I just gave you a great way to slow down mental aging. And I told you that for free. Good night formula, clarity factor, C60. Can Alex Jones do that for you? No. Can Dave Hodges do that for you? No. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Please share my videos. Please make sure you subscribe to all my channels, and go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the health supplements that your body needs to slow down aging, improve its immune system, and you will fare better than your peers. Trust me on this. All right? I am not wrong. I'm not wrong. I wasn't wrong in the previous crisis. I'm not wrong in the post era of the crisis. I'm not wrong with my analysis on the crisis that's going on in the Middle East. I'm not wrong with the crazy liberals. I said 2 weeks ago that the ultra liberal is putting us all in danger, and that if we don't pick the right path, we're going to be cursed as a society. And it just so happened that they enshrined in the Constitution in Ohio abortion rights. Literally, they put in their Constitution, it's okay to kill a child in the womb. You think God sees that in a positive light? As these states and these ultra liberals move away from the precepts of the Bible and the Torah? Of course not. And we're going to assume that we're still going to get some sort of divine blessing as a society when we allow these ultra liberals to take over. Not wrong on that either. Thank you for listening. Don't be a crazy liberal. Have a nice day.